Hello and welcome to this episode of For Your Consideration. This time it's Michael's choice, and he has chosen the 1998 film Gods and Monsters, about the last part of James Whale's life. James Whale being the director of such films as Frankenstein and Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein in the 1930s. Originally from Dudley, but made his name in Hollywood. I had never heard of this film before. Michael brought it to my attention at the end of last episode. So, Michael, hello.
Hello.
Tell us about your... Well, do you want to start with your history with the film, or do you want to talk about the Universal Monsters thing first?
I'll do... Okay. Big fan of Universal Monsters.
Right.
The original old black and white movies. I've got a Blu-ray set that just takes a hammer in quite often. They're kind of my go-to feel-good movies kind of thing, which I've bought fairly recently. But this movie specifically I saw at the Tyneside Cinema. I think it was about a year after I'd seen Ed Wood. I knew there was a Frankenstein connection. I thought I'd go and see it. And it's at the time I'd seen McKellen, I think possibly in Richard III, which he'd produced himself, which was very good. This is the year before he does the X-Men, and I think 2 years, and then he signs up almost immediately for Lord of the Rings. So this is when McKellen's basically just someone who had, well, let's go back to Doctor Who. He's the guy who wasn't in the 30th anniversary special because he'd backed out at the last minute, which is why there's a character in it called Syrian.
Sorry, are you saying that Samuel West's character in Dimensions in Time was going to be played by Ian McKellen?
Absolutely, 100%.
I did not know that fact. I did not know that.
Oh my God, I've told you a Doctor Who fact, which means, logically, it could be wrong.
No, now you say that, I'm like, okay, maybe I've vaguely heard that before, but no, I mean, yeah. Wow, okay.
So that would have been his first sort of foray into Doctor Who, which would have taken us down a whole different direction.
Well, it would also mean that he would have been in my first Doctor Who story.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So anyway, I go to the Tyneside Cinema thinking, oh, I'll enjoy this. And it's also got the guy out of The Mummy in it. Okay.
But again, the year before The Mummy?
Well, exactly, yeah. So I think he'd done like Dazed and Confused, which is one of the few films but with him in I've not seen. I've not seen that. I've not seen The Whale. But I am a massive... I've never seen him be bad in a film. I have seen bad films with him in. I've seen George of the Jungle. But
right.
I have yet to see him be bad in any film.
In a film, yeah.
Absolutely. Brendan Fraser is a superb actor, so I thought this will be great. I remember watching it and enjoying it massively at the time.
Right.
Because it's about filmmaking, it's about the past, it's got parallels. It has got some stuff going on that's a bit similar to Ed Wood, which I had enjoyed a lot more than anybody else. And I just really liked the movie. And I bought it on DVD, had it sort of hanging around, and then I had it on VHS. I never got around to DVD until I decided to do it for this.
Right.
So I'd suggested it, and then sort of as I was watching it, I was going, oh, bits of this haven't aged as well as I would have thought, which we'll cover in a bit.
Okay.
At all. And I kind of almost regretted it because the acting was superb. The story was good. I hadn't realised that it's based on a book, which is a fictionalisation of the end of his life. So the character of Clay, which is the one Brendan plays, doesn't actually exist.
No.
In real life.
Yeah.
But he's used as a tool to tell the story of Whale's life and Whale's eventual death, which is what this is. So it's got touches of Sunset Boulevard and a few other things as well. So because he's like old filmmaker who ends up in a pool and
yeah,
the fact that it's about the end of his life really because it's a celebration of him as a person, but also it's a dealing with his stroke, and this is going to sound very depressing, but it is. I don't know, is it an uplifting film or not? I kind of thought it was, but it felt less uplifting watching it now.
Yes, I mean, it has moments of humour in it.
Yeah.
There are some genuinely funny moments in it, but I think I would say that it's a film that is deeply melancholy.
Yes. Yes, that's a very good reading of it at all.
I think if you want one word to sum it up, then melancholy is the word. Which is obviously, that's not a bad thing. That's just an idea of like the kind of film you're getting into if you choose to watch it off the back of our podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. So it made me kind of look back at some of the other films that we've chosen as well, or that I've brought to the table. And yes, I can compare it with Ed Wood, but also because Ed Wood's about one person's love of film and how he makes it despite what's going on and all of that. But it's also about his relationship with Bela Lugosi, who is the person who was originally hired to play Frankenstein and was actually on the posters for a while. So because he'd played Dracula beforehand.
Oh.
So Ed Wood's got that Bela Lugosi thing going on, but here we've got there's a whole Karloff storyline as well. Do you know what Boris Karloff's real name is? Like because he's not called Boris or Karloff.
It wouldn't surprise me to find that it's something boring like John Smith, but
it's so dull. It's wonderful. I'd love to have it as a pen name, and it's William Henry Pratt.
Wow. Okay.
I know. And you're like,
so
what?
Boris Karloff obviously suggests someone from a Slavic background, but he wasn't.
No. I think nearly everyone's English. Like it's weird. I mean, okay. Here's the thing that blows everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Esther Lanchester, who's the woman who plays the bride in Bride of Frankenstein, and she's played in this
by Rosalind Ayres.
Yeah. Right. So she's in this.
Wife of a Doctor Who actor.
And in real life, she was the nanny at the beginning of Mary Poppins who gives up the job. So years later in her career, she's the first nanny, the one who gives up, and then Mary Poppins turns up and replaces her. Because she's like, the children are unmanageable, and then she storms off.
Seriously?
It's the same actor. Yeah. That is the mind-blowing thing. You're like, but that's the bride? And then this is her later on? So
sorry, so hang on. No, are you talking about Rosalind Ayres, or are you talking about the actress? You're talking about the actress
I'm talking about Esther Lanchester.
Right, who played
the actual bride.
The actual bride.
In the actual original movie.
In the original 1930 film, then appears in Mary Poppins. Right, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm following you now.
Sorry, we're skipping to Doctor Who actors and also. So,
no. We haven't done the actual Doctor Who actors, which is a proper
anyway,
thing.
The thing is, I love Frankenstein. I think it's great, but this is the podcast that I did more research than is healthy for me. Right. I went away and I listened to Derek Jacobi. Right, okay, so this is the way my brain works, and by works, we're going to be vague. I go, okay, we're doing this. Oh, I'll just rewatch the original. I know, I'll watch this with the commentary so I know more about the film. Fair enough. We often do that. I think I suppose I better watch Frankenstein. Well, if I'm watching Frankenstein, I should watch Bride of Frankenstein. Okay, so I do that. And then I go, well, you know what? I've never really read the original Frankenstein, so perhaps I should do that. So I then went away and got Derek Jacobi's audiobook of that as well. And I listened to which has put my Big Finish listening back weeks, because it's a big old, well, it's not a massive book, but it took some time getting through. And so then I was comparing the original story of that with this and so on, and then it just became big. So what I was thinking was, some of the other stuff I've brought is like Galaxy Quest, and that's about fan interaction, and there's fan interaction in this, and Ed Wood's about fan interaction as well. And I'm just wondering, and there's another film that I was going to bring as well, and that's also about people trying to make movies. And I'm thinking, is this just me with a selection of films about people trying to make films? Is that what I'm about? Is that what this really is secretly all about all along? Is just about versions of fandom in movies. So
I mean, that's
I don't know, because
it's an okay strand to have, isn't it? I think.
Well, it is, but then there's the very suspect fan at the beginning of the film. If we're going through the narrative, the one who comes to interview him and ends up taking his own clothes off.
Yes, and who then turns up later having,
having done the same thing but to somebody with actual power.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
and then having, secretly arranged a reunion at which James Whale is like, oh gosh, this was not what I wanted. This is not what I signed up for.
According to the audio track, the guy who was doing Karloff, most of that's a prosthetic, based on the live casts of Karloff made in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's like, okay, we took this too far. I think a lot of that had to do with the executive producer. Now, you're not a horror movie fan. That's not a problem. That's not a thing. However, you are aware of the person who is called Clive Barker. He's the executive producer on this.
So I spotted his name in the credits.
Okay,
and
so Clive...
I had a friend at university called Andrew who was obsessed with Clive Barker.
Yeah, he's the sort of filmmaker you get.
I mean, he was obsessed.
With,
He was obsessed with horror movies.
It's the Hellraiser films.
Yes. And he'd recently written a book. Did he written
Weave World?
I can't know. Didn't he write a horror film? He wrote a horror novel for kids.
Oh yeah. He did some great stuff. I don't know where he's vanished to. I mean, I know he lives.
I think he's still alive,
in the
right?
Hollywood Hills. Yeah, but he is, of course, an out gay filmmaker who makes horror films.
Right.
Which is why they went to him and went, Clive, there's a lot of parallels between this guy's life and yours.
Yeah.
And you've just made quite a bit of money doing other things. Do you want to invest in this?
Yeah.
So that was why he's the exec, because he actually cares about, people being out and in Hollywood and that.
Right.
And Whale was out, and he never really was in any closet, because that was it.
Yeah. And also the film was written and directed by Bill Condon, who went on to direct the final Twilight films, I think. Ah,
well, there you go. See, that I hadn't spotted, but that makes a ludicrously large amount of sense.
I did briefly look at his filmography. He directed I think he's had quite an eclectic career.
Yeah,
but clearly, I think clearly likes the sort of horror side. So it's very interesting kind of creative team, and as you say, based on a book.
Yeah, based on a book. I think it's called Father of Frankenstein, and that was then converted. But then you've got, is it an auteur piece because it's the writer director thing? But it won the Oscar for best adapted book.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
I think that's what it won for. So it's it's an Oscar winning piece. But it is the reason that I was not against this film when I was watching it this time was because, and the people listening can go away, they either know about this or they can go away on the Wikipedia and find out. But basically, Brendan Fraser's career took a bit of a downturn because he'd been part of the Me Too movement when he announced that a sexual assault had taken place on him by an elderly filmmaker. I think that was the gist of it. That's the best way of putting it across. So when I'm watching this and I'm watching Brendan Fraser get sexually assaulted by an elderly filmmaker, I'm like, oh, this is landing differently now than it did then, and it feels really. It felt not. Well, it wasn't meant to feel great because the guy's meant to trip. He's trying to trick him into killing him.
Yes.
It's like the way that you rob a bank, it goes wrong, and you end up committing suicide via police bullet.
Yes.
Because they end up killing you. That kind of thing happens in the States. So that's what he was trying to do in this narrative, but because of real life, I'm going, oh, I don't feel as comfortable watching this, and then I start questioning why I brought it to the table and things like that. But what I remembered was incredibly good performances by a set of great actors.
Yes. I mean, I think it is very well acted. And I think obviously the order of events were that this film came first, and then this real life sexual assault happened.
Oh yeah, it's about what
5, 6
10
years
years
later.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten, and then it was when I was reading read Brendan Fraser's Wikipedia again, and went, oh yes, that did happen to him, and
Yeah.
He's had this renaissance recently with The Whale. And I suppose the thing about that ending that makes me uneasy is because that's very clearly part of the fiction. The truth is that he did drown in a swim. He did drown himself in a swimming pool to end his life because the stroke had robbed him of his life essentially, and that his ex-lover had basically kept the suicide note hidden until his own death. That's you kind of feel okay. That guy, David, I forget what his name was, David, who briefly appears in the film, doesn't he? He briefly appears in the film.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel, well, this was the significant romantic relationship of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And then James Whale was living with another guy at the end of his life. But obviously both gay relationships. And what they've done is they've gone, we're going to completely ignore them for the purposes of the narrative, and we're going to invent this guy who didn't exist and who is has an interesting narrative arc through the film. But it's one of those things where it made me feel uneasy because this was a real life story and it was being.
So it's a biopic, but
it's
the
heavily
main
fictionalized
character in it becomes so he is basically a MacGuffin. That the Brendan Fraser character Clay is just meant to be moving things along.
Yeah,
but he becomes such an integral and central part of the narrative that you'd be forgiven for thinking, oh yeah, that's what happened.
Well, and it's also one of those films where, as the film goes on, it feels like they're dual protagonists.
Yeah,
it's like the film starts and it's clearly about James Whale, but by the end of the film, you're like, well, actually, it was about both of them. Should we go back to the start? Tell me what you liked about the film.
Yeah, well, what I liked was how it was made. Genuinely, sorry, that sounds so crap. That sounds like some sort of kid going, I liked how it did look, and it was nice, and the man did make the monsters, and the monsters was fun. But yeah, that was what brought me in. It made me go, yeah, I love the well, all right, Dracula's okay as a black and white film, but the Frankenstein, the Bride, for me, and I'd actually forgotten he'd made The Invisible Man. And weirdly, if it was me making this, I would have concentrated a lot more of bringing aspects of The Invisible Man to the narrative as a parallel. It's like he can't be seen anymore. He's not there. That kind of thing. But also his megalomania and things like that. That's because The Invisible Man movie, what's it, Claude Rains, is so damn good. It's I think Wells saw it and was like, yeah, that's nailed it. And obviously for me, one of my favourites is the one that kind of finishes off the original run of Universal Monsters, which is the Creature from the Black Lagoon. But that's a whole different story for another time. But these two films, because there's not a lot of films where the sequel starts immediately at the end of the first film. So as if you could watch them all in one go.
Yes.
I think I can think of The Incredibles.
Yep.
And this one. So you've got
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Yep. They just follow straight on because they are one big block. Yeah, exactly. But there's not a lot of films like that, and Bride does follow straight on. But there's let me see. I've got it written down here. So your timeline is you've got your 1910 version of Frankenstein, which is the Edison one. Caligari is in Germany in 1920. Metropolis is 27. A Journey's End is 1930, and Frankenstein is November 31. So there's only like 1 year between the release of his first film, the Journey's End one, and then this one.
Right.
So that's quite a big thing. Because then you've got Carl Lindley, who's the guy who runs Universal. Now he just wants to make like the best film place, but his son turns up and goes, "Dad, do you mind if I make some low budget horror films instead?" And he's like, "They're not going to make any money." "Oh yeah, go on, off you do it." And so it's Carl Lindley Jr. in it.
Right.
They're the ones who originally do Universal.
Right.
Now eventually they run into money troubles, and Universal gets sold.
Okay.
Now it's at this point where Whale is trying to produce the film that he talks about, which was his like last big push to be a movie maker.
Yeah.
And then that's the one that goes wrong. Now, according to some of the stuff I've read on the internet, and I don't know how true this is that it was meant to be about how Germany was badly treated after the First World War.
Yes.
Okay. I think it was called The Road Back or something.
Yes. Yeah.
But, and according to some websites, there was interference by, and we're going to figure out exactly together what I mean by this, interference by the German government in the 1930s.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I read. Yeah.
Who basically took some of the teeth out of it. And it was influence of that. So you're not going to be able to fight that kind of influence.
It sounds to me slightly odd, because you would think that the Nazis would have been on board with a narrative that said Germany had been badly treated after the First World War.
Well, that's what threw me completely, because I was thinking the same thing. Now, I know that me and you went to bits of the same film school, but not quite, because I was doing my main filmmaking degree at Northumbria University. And when we were there, we saw Triumph of the Will and a lot of other German propaganda.
Right.
Okay, just in order to do the propaganda segment of the study. And one of the things that I was taught was that, right off the top of my head, I'm going to say Goebbels, but was it Goering? The Minister of Propaganda.
Goebbels was the propagandist. Yeah.
Okay, so Goebbels turns up, and the Germans had made this incredible piece of filmmaking where there's this horrible foreign character, and they're murdering kids, and this big, tall, Teutonic blonde man turns up and saves the day, and all the filmmakers were like congratulating themselves, pat on the back, going, "Oh my God, this is brilliant. This brings up all of the Nazi values and everything." And apparently it was a terrible movie. Okay. And Goering absolutely loses it with them. And he's like, "This isn't what propaganda is about. This is blatant. This is just terrible filmmaking with too blatant a message. It's not subtle. It doesn't sell things. It doesn't have an underlying theme of, our message. It doesn't have any of that. It's just blatant. And if it's blatant, they'll see through it." That's not actually... He sent that back to the drawing board. And that story stayed with me. So perhaps it was too obvious, or I don't know what was going on, but I don't understand how that worked. But that is what ended his career in filmmaking.
Yeah.
And he lost his... But he'd also made a musical as well, which, I mean, obviously, I don't want to play into the gay stereotype, but I can see musicals working, but I can't see how it would work here. And also, the reason that I did that list of all of the films that were made in that order, because what we were taught, I don't know about, well, what I was taught was that you had the German Expressionist cinema, your Caligaris, your Metropolises, and all of those. And then as the Nazis came to power, the people who made those films moved to America, and that's why Fritz Lang makes such stark detective movies later on in his career, because he's used to the lighting and the way that he knows black and white movies.
Yes.
But here we've actually got in the actual shooting script of Frankenstein, and a lot of stuff written by Whale going, "Make the lab look like Metropolis." It actually has that written down.
Right.
So he's taking that German stuff, which was made, a decade earlier, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And then giving it back to us. So in a sense, he's recycling stuff that existed a decade ago and making not a cheaper version, but the Americanized version, or in many respects, because of the cast, a British version. Because so many theatre directors had moved to the States when talkies came along and were just responsible for teaching people how to talk properly, how to enunciate, how to perform. So that's why there were so many British directors at that time in the States, which is how come. So as the technology had developed, he'd seized the moment. So it's always the people who you don't really suspect who can seize the technology and use it as it emerges who come out on top.
Yeah.
So maybe we should have spent more time with YouTube earlier on. Oh no, hang on, you did. It was me who didn't. But it's too late now.
Yes, but in hindsight, there's all the things that the YouTubers do, like consistency. That was my problem. Was consistency in terms of I'm never very consistent in terms of a release schedule. Like this podcast last year was about as close to being consistent as I've ever been. I mean, I suppose the interesting thing about the film for me was how little, really, of the filmmaker we got. Obviously you had the parallels with the end of the way that the end of the film was shot and the way that he kind of turns Brendan Fraser into the monster. And it's on a stormy night. They're clearly playing with the sort of the mise en scène, to use they're playing with that.
Let's be Ponce.
They're playing with the setting of the original film. They're kind of going, look, this is the guy that directed Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. Let's have the climax of this film about his life on a dark and stormy night. It's not very subtle, right? So that worked.
I'll grant you that. Yeah,
that worked. I think what I was slightly kind of thrown by was, you had that one big flashback to where they're filming the scene with the bride, where you get to see them. They've kind of, and obviously they've just shown you the clip of the original film, and then they kind of cut to, here's our recreation of it, so you can kind of directly compare. Because I haven't seen any of these films. I've just seen.
See, that was one of the reasons that I wanted to discuss this with you.
So I've seen all the famous clips. All the the close up of him, of Frankenstein's monster, kind of So I've seen those famous clips because you can't avoid those famous clips. But I've not seen the films. Obviously, I've now seen a few more clips from them in this film.
It's only an hour and 10 long.
What? Oh,
they're both an hour and 10 long. It's incredible. Yeah.
So, and I thought that was a lovely scene because it gave you a sort of insight into, or at least a moment of his directing career. You know, whether he was actually like that on set, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much kind of.
He looked exactly like McKellen, though. If you ever see an actual photograph of him as well, that's freaky. How much he looks like him.
So what I'm saying is that was a lovely kind of scene, but I was like, well, this film isn't really interested in that.
No.
In this, and I suppose it's reflected in the beginning, like he's not interested in picking over the bones of his career, because when the guy comes along to interview him, who's clearly a fan and is the kind of fan who's like into the minutiae of the whole thing, and James Whale is just not interested, and obviously does the whole kind of strip interview. He's like, to make this more interesting for me, you're going to have to take your clothes off to interview me. And then obviously you have a little bit of flashback to his childhood, and then the frequent references to World War One.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Referencing Journey's End. It was Journey's End, isn't it? Which was the play that sort of made his name, which is about, because I was reading about this was a play that was really successful because you had all these young men coming back from the front who could not talk about what they'd experienced because of, you didn't talk about that stuff. What we would now call
PTSD.
Yeah. But also I think because of the environment was that you didn't talk about that stuff. And I thought the comment about the thing they always get, the thing they never get is the smell. And I was just like, yeah, obviously. And again, we're not getting it here either.
No, that's true.
That's the thing. But apparently the play was really, really successful at conveying the experiences of soldiers in the trenches. So we get that mixed in. But for the most part, it's telling a completely different story, isn't it? It's telling the story of a man who has had a stroke and his brain has been affected by this in such a way,
and he's dealing with 1950s medication as well.
And it's the whole thing of like,
his brain's either going at 100 miles an hour or not at all.
Yes, and
so
it's one of those things where I was just like, it was not the film I expected it to be, because I was expecting to see more of the sort of making of. I mean, I haven't seen the whole of Ed Wood, but Ed Wood is more, his. Oh no,
there's a lot of actual filmmaking happens in Ed Wood.
And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying
No,
my preference would have been to see more of
because there's
his
two
earlier
scenes
life.
that take place in the lab, where you've also got the one where, although Brendan Fraser's character is seen throughout the narrative as a version of the creature, the monster,
Yes.
the Adam Frank, in this he's actually the scientist. He's the scientist Frankenstein, and the monster is McKellen during the dream sequence when it even takes the brain out.
That was quite creepy, that scene.
That's about as creepy as the original movie gets. It doesn't get much more creepy than that.
Right.
So if you can handle that, I mean, it's you can...
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things where you're just like, well, we're seeing this in black and white, and there's a huge difference between hacking the top of a head off and pulling a brain out in black and white and colour.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very different kettle of fish.
Yes. Even given the distance of time, I don't think I would bring the Peter Cushing Frankenstein Hammer films to the table for this.
Right.
But I would have considered bringing Frankenstein.
Right.
Because it's such a and it's also got so much classic stuff going on. Because, all right, we can't mention Frankenstein without mentioning Young Frankenstein, which is just an absolute homage, and it looks exactly the same and was made beautifully, and there's so much going on that's the same, and I don't even want to bring that to the table because it's such a beloved movie, Young Frankenstein. But if you've not seen that, it's just lovely.
I know the theme tune to Young Frankenstein because I have it on one of those compilation CDs of movie themes. But I've seen the odd clip from it, but I've never actually seen it.
Well, I think we're not here to talk about that. That's fine. The thing is, when I was watching this as well, I realised that Brendan Fraser's character isn't particularly likable. You're kind of going, we're on your side, but he's not particularly nice to the female characters at all in this. And he does feel lost, but I suppose that's the point of the character. He does feel lost, and he's trying to find himself, which is a kind of a 90s film theme.
Yes. I suppose I found, like you said, like he's a very good actor. Like he I think it's very easy to dismiss him because of films like The Mummy and George of the Jungle. I've not seen George of the Jungle. I like the two Mummy films. Yeah. Well, there was a third one, wasn't there? The Scorpion King.
4, I think. But
were there 4?
He's only in the first. I'm pretty sure he's only in the first two. And weirdly, the ride.
Oh, okay.
He's you actually see him shout at somebody on set. I'll explain another time.
Anyway,
but basically, the Mummy, the ride based on the 2 movies he's in, he does appear on a video screen as part of the ride. Yeah.
So I like him as an actor, but you're right. I think I suppose the 3 main characters of the film are Clayton Boone, played by Brendan Fraser. You've got James Whale, played by Ian McKellen, and then you've got Hannah, the housekeeper, played by
Lynn Redgrave.
Doing whatever.
Who's apparently the auntie of the current brigadier, rather than. I saw the family tree.
Gemma Redgrave's aunt. Yeah. Yes. Obviously, she's a loyal servant to.
Well, that's it.
Him.
She's basically. She's playing it totally straight. Okay,
yes.
I get that, but she's also playing it as a character who would be in one of Wales' films.
Right.
She's got the weird Middle European accent.
Yes.
That so many of the characters in all of the villagers would have had in these films. And she's almost
person?
Igor. Well, I know there was a housekeeper, but that's all I know.
Right.
And so I don't know if she had a weird accent or not.
Yeah. Yes. And she. I mean, she's. I suppose she's part of, and I said earlier, the melancholy of the film. Like, she is, in some ways, at the heart of that, because, she's this dedicated servant to this master who she clearly loves him in the way that, you know, housekeepers love masters in stories. It's a very conventional, you know, we've seen that kind of story before. She obviously has certain qualms about his sexual proclivities, shall we say?
That's fair enough.
And yet she herself, there's that scene where she sort of explains that she doesn't make God's rules, and it's almost like she has her own view on it. And you know, it's you know, it's not for her to kind of pronounce judgment, as it were. But also she is relieved when she finds out that Brendan Fraser's character is not gay. It's just a weird cocktail of like attitudes going on in the film. There
really is, yeah.
Also, Princess Margaret.
Oh yeah, this is clearly pre The Crown.
Yeah. When did she died? Early 2000s, I think.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
She would have been alive when this film came out. She's played as being a complete moron.
Yeah,
and I don't get the impression that she was. Or am I
No, but
wrong about
it's
that?
Americans. It's Americans telling American stories. I think.
I suppose so.
I mean, yeah, like after The Crown, you're never going to portray Princess Margaret as anything other than, well, a reasonably heavy drinker and smoker. To be fair,
well, which she was,
she was, but I suppose at the time she was just second fiddle to the Queen in perception.
Well, but obviously only recently so, because this is late 50s, so the Queen's only been the Queen for like 5 years.
That's true. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
she was a socialite, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but she's only in it for like a few minutes.
Yes, she's there to perform a function, you know, of him kind of initially getting the invitation and not wanting to go, and then changing his mind because he's like, I can play that I have this hunky young lover, even though I don't have a hunky young lover. So he's just one-upping, you know, the other director guy who he doesn't like, you know, and it's
So you have to remember that we're dealing with. Obviously, society moves on. How do I put this nicely? Gay sensibilities of the 50s and 30s are going to be different from the 70s, 90s, now, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stuff that when people say, "Oh, it was fine in the 70s." So if you're in the 70s, it was fine in the 50s. It's like certain ways of behaving were more acceptable or less acceptable or more shocking or less shocking at various times. So you've got to have that going on. And also, this is the 50s, you've got the time of the McCarthy witch trials, witch hunts. Yeah. So that isn't really gone into this at all.
No.
Because it would have been very tempting to introduce things like that. But you're going to end up over-egging the pudding if you try to make things even more realistic than not. So,
and also there's the whole aspect of, and they touch upon it, you know, when he's having the conversation with David at the party where he's like, I'm not in the closet, and he's like, well, yeah, but the rest of us are. And it's a fascinating thing because apparently he was, you know, never in the closet.
Yeah.
But had a successful career, at least for that, you know, that time. And you're just like, well, what was it that enabled him to navigate that world that left? And my wife for a while was a big fan of Queer Eye.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen Queer Eye for the Straight Guy at all.
I think I've caught a couple of episodes in. It's a fairly standard kind of, but it's a makeover show, yeah.
Yes, with 5 gay blokes who all have their different specialities, and she pointed out that it's one of the interesting things is that.
So I'm imagining the Fantastic Four with them all having superpowers.
Yes, the point is that there's the guy who does like. I forget, Jonathan Van Ness, I think he is. He's excessively camp, right? Excessively camp. He's like stereotypically, okay, of course you're gay. But then there's a couple of the other ones who are very much not at all. Like, their voices are not gay. They don't present as gay. And it's this thing of, like, she was saying that, like, I think it was possibly one of the episodes, and he was talking about the fact that, like, he in a sense, he could never be in the closet, right? Because he wasn't ever able to act in a way that wasn't read as gay, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? And I just wondered whether there was an element of that with the real whale, that maybe it was just so obvious that there was no point in hiding it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because obviously the way that McKellen plays the character is that he's not, he doesn't play to the camp stereotypes, does he, in this film?
No, but some of the things he says, what's that great line about double entendre? The best thing about double entendre is it's only ever got one meaning. It's like he'll say outlandish things that could have two meanings, but really they've only got the one. Yes. I think it was Ronnie Barker who said that.
Right. Okay.
But it was yeah. Anyway, I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to, but that's where we're at. I'm glad we've discussed it, and I'm glad it gave me an excuse to revisit a hell of a lot of Frankenstein and get just as angry as I always get about the very first title card in the original movie, which you won't have seen. Right, here's my question. Who wrote Frankenstein?
Mary Shelley.
Okay, guess whose name is on the front of the film as the author of Frankenstein?
Bram Stoker?
Nope. Mrs. Percy Shelley.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Right, so not that they've misattributed it to the wrong writer.
Oh, no.
But
I got angry then, more angry now. It's something I would absolutely fix. Ooh. Now, I know that this film's actually based on a play by someone called Peggy Webling, because they bought the rights to that.
Right.
Because Frankenstein itself was out of copyright, which is how come there's so many versions of it.
Right.
Which we've covered before, which is why there's so much Shakespeare. Okay, but we've done that before. So that's my last thing. I've got so much other crap to go on about. I might do a separate podcast where I review Frankenstein the book, just for myself.
Right.
But that's separate. Okay. Anyway, so do we want to do our traditional Doctor Who actors?
Yes, we should. Well, I think we talked about this last time. Obviously, Ian McKellen himself was the voice of the Great Intelligence in Matt Smith's second Christmas special.
I believe so.
The Snowmen? Yes. Was that his second one?
The Snowmen.
Oh, no. No. Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe was his second one, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, which had so much promise.
It's one of the worst. Anyway, I've not seen it
and
since.
And what a waste of Bill Bailey.
It's a waste of Bill Bailey and a waste of Narnia. Anyway, the Snowmen. So, yes, I think...
Androzani mentioned it. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm having flashbacks
now. You're right. Yes, the one of the Claras, and the Doctor accidentally gives the intelligence the idea for invading the London Underground.
The London Underground using a lunchbox, yeah.
Yes. Ian McKellen, the voice of the snow globe.
Yes.
Basically. Which, I don't know, I feel that they could have used him better. But maybe he was just available for a voice role and they were like, well, can we get you in a booth for... Because I suppose by that point he was very famous.
I would go for exceptionally famous, yeah. Okay. National treasure level, yeah.
Sorry, before we go on, I can't remember when we did Chariots of Fire, did we talk about the Ian Charleson Prize?
Hang on, we did definitely talk about a prize. Was this the one you were going to be given?
No. So
no.
Following his death from AIDS, there was and it still is, as far as I know, there's still a prize. There's an Ian Charleson Prize for I think it's to do with a performance in British theatre, and the first person to win it was Ian McKellen.
Okay, we haven't discussed this. Go on.
And in his acceptance speech, he basically said, "I shouldn't be here. He should be here for his Hamlet," because he basically was dying whilst he was doing Hamlet, and everybody who saw him do Hamlet said he was absolutely amazing, and nobody knew he was dying of AIDS, and all that kind of anyway. And so Ian McKellen was the first winner of the prize the following year when it was instituted, but I'd never heard of him until I can't remember whether I saw X-Men before I saw Lord of the Rings, or I think possibly Lord of the Rings was my first introduction to Ian McKellen. So it's fascinating to see him kind of pre his mega fame.
Well, if you get the chance, see the Richard III. It's very, very good, but it is set in an alternative 1930s.
Okay.
And it's yet another chance to see Ian as in a Nazi uniform, a bit like the other film that came out about this same time, where I think it's called something like The Apprentice or something, where he plays an ex-retired Nazi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously in X-Men he plays a victim of the Nazis. So yes, we've already mentioned that Rosalind Ayres, who played...
Oh, sorry, one more thing.
Yes.
Ian McKellen at this point in his life is 59. He's like 6 years older than me, and he's playing somebody who dies. So this film made me feel very ancient.
Yes, somebody who dies by suicide at the age of 60-something. So he wasn't that much younger than the guy who was portraying.
He'd had a stroke?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
Sorry. I was already feeling old.
Yes.
But anyway,
So Rosalind Ayres, who played... What's the name of the actress who played the bride?
Esther Lanchester.
So Rosalind Ayres, who played Esther Lanchester, is the wife of Martin Jarvis. Him from Vengeance on Varos, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, and The Web Planet.
And The Web Planet.
So that's a stretch. The actual Doctor Who actor that you said I might spot is Pamela Salem.
Yes.
Who played his mother in the flashbacks. Very recognisably her, because her voice is so distinctive, even if she's putting on an accent.
Yeah, a non-specific northern accent.
Well, that bugged me, because they said he was from the north, but he was from Dudley. Dudley is very much in the Midlands.
Look,
anyway,
I know. Trust me, where I'm from, I'm in Yorkshire right now, but I'm from Newcastle. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in the south.
Well, yes.
Right? So, yeah, my wife kicks off if you say that she's from further south, because she's from Manchester, and it just gets out of hand. There's a line in...
I think I've told you before that all of my mates at uni who were from Sunderland or the near environs said I was from the Midlands. And I was like, no, I'm not. Sheffield is in the north. It's the start of the north, but it's the north.
It's in a north. Yeah, I'll let you on.
Dudley is most definitely in the Midlands.
Yes.
I discovered it was in Worcestershire at the time, and obviously now it's part of the Greater Birmingham morass. Yes. But yeah, so Pamela Salem, she of Toos from Robots of Death, and Rachel Jensen from... it's Rachel Jensen, isn't it, I think?
It certainly is. Yes. Who was in Countermeasures and was
from
marvellous.
Remembrance of the Daleks, who is... I have no what's not shame. Well, you know shame in saying that she's definitely one of my Doctor Who crushes.
I don't think you'll be alone one though.
No, I mean
that's standard, isn't it?
A very beautiful woman. I mean, not looking like that in this, because she's clearly wearing some kind of prosthetic to make her look old.
Right. Okay. So we've done Doctor Who actors. So are you glad I brought this or not? Or...
I like Night of the Demon and probably the Breakfast Club. It's one of those things where I'm just like, well, this isn't a film that I would have watched. I was what's the word? I was held by it. You know, it kept my attention. It's probably not something I'd watch again, but it's a film that I have watched and appreciated in the moment, and have enjoyed chatting about it. So I think.
No, that's good.
I would say, I would say to anybody who's found our conversation interesting, it's worth watching the film.
Absolutely. And I do not regret bringing it now, although I did have a qualm at the time, but obviously that's different. Okay, so that leaves us with one final thing for next time. It's your turn to select.
So we are recording this on the 30th of September.
Yes.
Which is the 60th anniversary of the first broadcast of Thunderbirds.
Oh, yeah.
So I had something else planned, but I thought timing-wise, it's time to do Thunderbirds.
Which one?
Well, so...
Or two.
Listeners may be familiar with the fact that there was a recent 4K restoration of Trapped in the Sky and Terror in New York City in cinemas. I did not make it. I have seen mixed reviews from people with technical know-how about...
Mixed reviews? Okay.
Well, I have seen lots of people going, wasn't it great to see Thunderbirds in the cinema? And then I've seen other people saying the sound and the visuals were patchy at best.
Okay.
I have not seen it, so I cannot comment. And they've just announced the Steelbook today. I am not going to be buying the Steelbook. I have.
Right.
I might get the Blu-ray eventually of the whole series when it comes down in price. I have them all on DVD. Anyway, so that's by the way. Those two episodes seem to always get picked. Now, Traps in the Sky is fantastic as a pilot. It's a great episode, and we will talk about it when we talk about Thunderbirds. I am going to go slightly off the beaten track, and I'm going to pick 2 episodes to watch, and I'm going to invite you, Michael, to pick a third if you so choose to add to what we do, if you would like to pick an episode of Thunderbirds that you particularly like. We are going to do The Imposters.
Okay.
And Move and You're Dead.
Right. I don't know Thunderbirds half as well as you.
Right.
Although I know I've seen one. I even built a Tracy Island at some point for someone. But that's another story for another time.
Right.
Possibly next time. But
yes.
So I think we'll stick with the 2. I don't know the titles.
Right.
Like for me, it would be like a Friends episode. The one with the massive aeroplane thing and the runway scene.
Yes.
With the little wheels underneath. That was what it would be for me.
Yes, so that's Trapped in the Sky.
Right.
I mean, I was tempted by that, but I think it's... And we will talk about it because it's a big part of why I'm a Thunderbirds fan is that first episode. But I wanted to do 2 episodes that I particularly enjoy
the 2,
and
I'll
have
watch
nostalgia for. So I'll send those 2 to you.
Yes.
We will talk about the whole series. We'll talk about our own experiences of it because you are half a generation older than me, so you will have had a different experience about watching it for the first time than I did. So it's going to be really interesting to compare.
I saw Thunderbird 6 in the cinema.
Oh, yes. And then obviously there are no Doctor Who actors to spot because it's puppets, but there are Doctor Who actors to listen out for.
Which we will.
Most definitely.
That's excellent.
And
right, well, that's great.
Oh, and one Hitchhiker's actor definitely to listen out for as well, if you know that. Oh, you don't know. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay. No, I don't. Oh, I'm pondering now.
It's a very small part in the TV series of Hitchhiker.
Okay. That's the bit I needed to ask. It's like,
yes.
And which flavour of Hitchhikers am I listening out for?
It's a small bit part in the TV Hitchhiker.
I shall scribble in my notebook and I shall join you again next time.
Yes. I have very much enjoyed this as usual, Michael. I will say goodbye and leave the usual final au revoir to yourself.
Be seeing you.